Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to my live. Okay, getting started. So, today's topic is now the fourth topic about going, really accessing the power within. And our fourth episode of the Power Within series. And today's topic is breaking off strongholds. So if you are jumping on live and have questions, go for it. Type up anything that's coming to your mind. I love when you guys interact with me. So let's get started. We've been talking about tapping into this power within, that I believe if you are a child of God, God is in you, that power is in you, period. And it's not a question of if that power is in you, it's how do you let it go full blown, express itself. And something that I really help clients break down is anything that blocks that power to go through. And for today's episode, I'm going to use the word stronghold. What is a stronghold? Well, sometimes that's actually a good thing, I believe. Like if you have a city with a stronghold, if it tries to be attacked, there's going to be pillars or warriors or some kind of stronghold that pushes away that attack. That's a good thing. When we have good strongholds anchored, we know who we are, we know whose we are, we know the power, the weapons, the authority that we carry. That's ideal. That's a good stronghold. But the Bible also says anything that we have that we imagine that's a stronghold that goes against what God says, we have to tear that down. And so that's the thing. And so it's easy, again, for people to say, I know I'm a child of God, or I know God's in me. Great. But what's really programmed in the brain and what's going on in your, most inner core, your actual beliefs about yourself? Because when I'm doing counseling work or coaching work, it always comes up, right? A person has a goal. I want to be successful. I want to be married. I want to make money. I want to have my dream job. But there's almost always some kind of barrier that comes up that almost challenges that goal. And depending on how big that barrier is or how big that root is that anchors that negative belief of actually no, I don't feel like I am really lovable or I deserve love or money or success or life's always going to be hard. That's what all my generation said. That stuff, depending on the severity, the strength of that tower, that takes a little bit more strength to pull down, and so that it doesn't resurrect. Because again, I like to blend in psychology and spirituality. And if I'm looking about like the Christian Bible verse, it says we renew our minds daily. Okay, stuff comes up daily. We are becoming a new creation daily, dying to the old daily. Okay, that's a constant present experience of us being liberated into the true identity that God has for us. On the other hand, psychologically speaking, if we examine your brain, you have to have neural pathways that are built for you to do different things. For you to learn how to tie your shoes, like you at first it's confusing. And then the more you do it, the more you learn. And then second nature, you close your eyes and you're done. And, even if someone later on says you're tying it wrong, that's going to take you some time to unprogram how to tie your shoes and do it something in a different way, and then have that become almost like second nature. And so my point is, with the brain, it takes time to learn new traits, new habits, new behaviors. What's that 21 days type of rule of breaking a habit and forming a new one? Yeah, it takes time. It's not like that. So going back to what a strong, excuse me, take a drink. Going back to what a stronghold is. This is how I say it in all my practices. I don't care if you say the word demon. I don't care if you say the word bad behavior. I don't care if you say something is a maladaptive schema. I don't care if it's the word limiting belief. I don't care if you say curse. I don't care. Anything that reaps hell, that limits you from living life in abundance the way Christ promised you. anything that gets in the way from you experiencing liberation, freedom, prosperity, soul, mind, emotions, your life, your family, your business, if it is holding you back and you are miserable and you are missing that mark of what you believe God planted you here to do, in my opinion, that is from, let's say, the kingdom of darkness, that is you experiencing a little bit of hell or maybe a lot. That's that stronghold that we're fighting against. So if I were to really break it down, my opinion, a lot of these strongholds, and we're going to break down a couple of these, a lot of these strongholds are rooted in, my opinion, fear. Even if I think of the word pride, in my opinion, that's a lot of times the same thing. A person who's prideful probably has fear holding them back to change. There's some kind of fear component when we go inside. I don't care if there's a person with like narcissistic, almost like personality traits, and they seem very selfish and self-ambitious, and it's all about them and how they want it, and they'll stomp over people. A lot of times, if you go into like the depth of who they are, they're actually very, very, very fragile, um very just low self-love and identity, and there's a lot of fear of who, just, I mean, there's probably a lot of trauma going on, and that's why they are the way that they are. But anyways, when we start to break off fear and we start to take full force, like we start to almost like take over the territory that we believe is ours, we have to have a lot of courage. Like and what was it in the Old Testament, Joshua, right after Moses was passing away, Joshua came in and he was like, let's take over this land, this is ours. There's so many Bible verses that says be strong, be courageous. And the thing is that, like, even when they went into the new promised land, the Bible doesn't even say that God gave everything right away to them immediately. He says he'd give them almost like in territories. They'd expand their territory almost like in counties or whatever, where it's like you slay the giants in this land, in this area, and then once you have occupied that land and now you're reigning in that territory, then you could go on to the next and slay the new giants. And that's how I look at even healing and liberation. I mean, I think if the lights were all turned on and we really saw physically with our eyes every single plague, demon, negative energy, bad behavior, whatever, all of that, if we were to see all of that right away, a lot of us would probably just get very, very, very scared and feel very weak. And I think it's God's goodness where he just, appropriately gives to us what we're ready to battle in that moment, in that season. And some of that stuff might not even be relevant until we get there. And so once we start to courageously pursue what we feel like is ours, um, then we have to actually exert a lot of discipline to maintain that. So just because someone said that they want to be, a business person, entrepreneur, just because they said, one day they're going to make money, it doesn't mean, well, first of all, yes, it takes a lot of courage and risk to just go out there and go for it. But the other thing is like, okay, well, what happens when you, have to plant and sow and sow and sow and sow? SOW, right? And then you reap way later. If even there's always risks. And it's like sometimes it's like, okay, for instance, me even like on YouTube putting up these videos, I believe there's a purpose. It's not like I see everyone who's watching it. Bless you if you are. But I'm believing that in due season, I will reap what it is that I will see. And if I don't see it now, it doesn't mean I should stop posting or whatnot. I have goals as to why I'm putting this stuff out there. So anyways, let's start to break it down. What are some common things that I see working with people that hold them back? And instead of me just saying things like, which I could very easily say things like culture and religion, I mean, we already know that. Okay, if you've been following me, you probably know for yourself. And I think that is a web that we will be untangling for a while, unfortunately, because it's been weaved in for, I'd say, thousands of years. I'm not just, when I say culture and religion, I'm not just saying like, oh, it's our family, our country that we come from, that culture and religion. No, I'm talking about the fact that Christ 2000 plus years ago came back and was trying to defeat the religious people, religious structures. And 2000 years later, we're still literally dealing with this. So that's not just dishearten anyone, but that's to say like, okay, that's a very generic, big thing. But let's go in a little deeper as to the things that people struggle with. And one of them I started with the most foundational one, in my opinion, is fear. Let's break down some. I'm never going to get into all of it. Some of the big things that people hurt or limits them: fear of rejection, fear of people's opinions, fear of failure, fear of looking ridiculous, fear of literally risking and investing a lot of time or money, whether it's a relationship that doesn't work out or a business venture that doesn't work out, fear of doing, again, fear of stepping out of comfort zone, fear of being, what's the word, from being excommunicated to, what's the word I'm looking for? Like when people just kind of push you out. I can't think of the word. Fear of, I don't know, being ostracized, being, again, pushed out, being let go, fear of being kicked out, fear of losing friends, fear of, people's judgment, fear of people's criticism, fear of not having their approval, fear of looking ridiculous, fear of being alone, fear, the list goes on. Okay, fear of being betrayed, fear that you're gonna get cheated. There's so much. And so, like, let's kind of talk about like rejection. Almost every time I'm working with people, there comes a point where they have to start to let go of things, events, people, opinions that is now holding them back from what they really want to do. And the thing is, like, it's not like it's not like I'm working with people that sometimes, maybe more in counseling, but with coaching, it's not like, if you are an adult, an entrepreneur doing your business, it's not like there's going to be 10 people that are like, don't do it, you're going to look so dumb, don't do your business. I mean, oftentimes you guys on the coaching side are successful enough, you guys are already trying to do some stuff. It's more like these internalized voices that we're trying to break off. So if you grow up in a family, let's say, where people play it safe, or you're always just under the radar, you never really want to stick out because people are going to be pointing fingers and talking about you and gossiping, you're going to continue to, even if you're not even with those people, internally in your voice or your mind, you're going to internalize these voices, and you have to break down, whose voice is that? Mom? Dad? Maybe it's that one aunt, maybe it's that one pastor, maybe it's that one teacher. We have to break down what voice, from who, what is it saying to us? And you would be surprised how many times I've worked with clients where they're telling me something and narrating something like, oh, if I do this, and like, I'm just going to feel so dumb. And then people are going to be telling me that that was stupid. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, logically speaking, your idea is fine. You already put in money to it. Like, what's holding you back? Where is this voice coming from? Who has said it? Oh, no one directly said it. Oh, it's an internalized voice. From who? That's when we start to sift out and start to pluck out these weeds. And unfortunately, this stuff usually goes deep. It's been there for a while. Maybe you grew up in a family, in a church, in a society, in a neighborhood, in a school, where certain messages, negative messages, have been reinforced. And when we live by that narrative, right, that code, computer code, for such a long time, you're just living it out without even recognizing it, that you're not making that decision. That decision has been made for you in terms of how you react, think, live life or not live life, right? There's that limiting belief. And so when we start to really pluck that stuff out and really challenge it with, what does God say? Right? Your dream is to open up this new orphanage. Your dream is to experience a marriage where you do business together with your partner. I don't care. Like, when I have clients who have amazing, great goals, and then there are these like little things that start to come up and clutter their ability to get to this goal, that's when we start to break that stuff off. And so when we believe this stronghold is being broken, then out of faith, we act different, and we can act almost immediately. I know that, like, on a counseling psychology level, a lot of times there's just so much emotions and rawness that comes up when we start to really target these voices. That's the healing aspect in itself that has to happen. That does take time. But if you believe you are reprogramming your brain, then day by day, it could be just one decision. You don't even have to do anything different, but just even trying to think different is already you programming your brain and getting on the path that you need to be on to reach the goals that you have. And might I say, oftentimes it's godly goals. And so, again, these internalized negative voices, that is now the influence or foundation that we oftentimes build our life on without even realizing it. And look, I've been in the same situations. It's like from my external point of view, and I'm working with clients, it's like, where'd you get that from? Why would you limit yourself? Or why are you hindering or doubting yourself here? It's so easy for me, I'd say, as a person who, believes in God and believes God wants you to succeed. It's so easy for me to be like, what's that? Call that out. Let's uproot that. Nope. Like I could go into it, but even me, I get blinded with my own stuff. Like, oh, I'm feeling stuck. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. Sometimes I'll have moments where I'm like, I don't know, I can't really figure it out. And I process this stuff all the time. I'd say I'm a very reflective, aware person. And so when will schedule sessions with other coaches, counselors to help me break through what's going on, I'm just always so surprised with the things that they help me see from their external perspective that I would be completely blind. And the thing is, like, again, when it's like when you're doing the same thing with the same group of people a lot all the time, it's really hard to imagine or do things different. And that's the problem. I say a huge problem growing up in the same community of people, culture, church. I think that's actually very dangerous. Here's why. I think that you will never be able to think different, to even view life different, unless you expose and put yourself out there in different situations with different people. It's like growing up. It's like you go to the same church building your whole life. Everything that they do is going to be truth for you. Like fact, this is universal. Everyone has to praise and worship or pray or sing or communion like this until you start to go out to different culture, different churches, different church buildings. It could be in your same city to, across the world. And then you're like, now I have some thinking to do. They all say they believe in the same God. We read the same Bible, but I'm seeing, even worship be expressed in so many ways. Where do I need to maybe expand my sights, my perspective, perceptions about things or understanding? You're going to have to be challenged. And that's why you invite other people into your life from an external perspective, or you go out, and find these people or experiences to see things differently and newly. So again, people's opinions, what are they going to say? I don't know if it's like an evolutionary thing where people, I think God designed us to have relationships be a really big deal. Like you have to like be in community. It's important. It's survival, but also fellowship, biblically speaking. Like that stuff is important. You have to be connected to people, but always you have to watch that fine line. What's that balance between, okay, now I'm overly committed to a group of people where like we're stuck, how we do life, how we think about things we talk about. It's like I remember, here's a practical example. Well, I'll give you a couple examples. I remember I was listening to some business person who like they're very, very successful. And they were saying like when their goal to get their business from zero to $1 million, when they had that goal, they hired some kind of coach, mentor person, whatever, to teach them and guide them, and they succeeded. And they said, when we hired that person, wonderful. But then when we wanted to scale our business now from 1 million to 10 million, we had to hire a different person who had experience in that. And even that person was different than who they hired when they went from 10 million to 100 million. That's not bad. I'm not saying the first person's bad. No, the first person served its purpose, but you're going to continue to grow. Continue to invite people who see different perspectives, who've encountered different horizons, who can tell you more, who've seen more, experienced more, and been successful. That's normal and that's good. And so I think it's very dangerous when we stay with just our clan of people. We go and we only work with people who think the same way. I know it's a comfort zone, it's familiar, but you know what? Familiarity is also a spirit, and it's not necessarily a good thing, right? It's like, again, if you're trying to reach here and all the people in your group top off here with certain growth, whether it's mental, emotional health, whether it's how much money they make, whether it's like, I don't know, how they do life and what's appropriate, like you're going to kind of get stuck in this. You're not going to magically outgrow this group unless you start to like put yourself out there with these type of people, events, life and then you'll influence yourself and be up there. So It's very scary when you're gonna have people say things like, "Oh, what if you fail or you're not gonna be successful?" Like people who speak doubt. Because even when Jesus was healing that one girl in the Bible who she's like 12 years old, and he the Bible says that he like put out all these people who are like, she's dead. Why are you even trying to pray for her? Like, put him out. Nope, I don't need to hear this voice. This is not helpful to what I'm doing here, what I'm about to do. Close the door. And then he was able to speak life to this girl, and she woke up, not dead anymore. And the story, the symbolicism of that, or the metaphor, sometimes you just got to shut out people who just speak doubt to your voice or to your life, to your dreams. And so it's one thing when you hear people like maybe doubt or undermined, or, maybe they're just like scared, they don't know. That's one thing. But on an extreme end, and this is more the counseling work that I do, when I hear clients try to improve a new way of life and their family flat out says things, "Oh, you think you're better than us? Oh, you think we've raised you wrong," even though it's like it's ridiculous, some of these situations, from just like plain out abusive to so unhealthy to complete poverty mindsets. I mean, a lot of stuff I've learned. But when I'm seeing a kid start to do life different and be healthy, um, oh my gosh, the level of unhealth that I see sometimes. Like, here's an example. I remember working a long time ago at the high school with a kid who she wanted to break off these family generational nasty ways of problem solving. And for them and their family, it was just fighting, like literally fighting, cussing, yelling, vicious, mean, scary. And she's like, I don't want to act like that. I don't want to be an animal. I'm sick and tired of being treated like that. And I don't want to act like that. And I don't want to do that to my future kids. And so she's like a ninth grader, and she's like, I don't want to fight. Anytime I get triggered or mad, there's so much healing this whole family needed. But yeah, she said, I'm not going to fight anymore. And I remember there was a situation where some girls were kind of teasing her, and she was so holding back to not fight, because this would have been so easy. It's holding back that was hard. That's that reprogramming that brain. And her brain is like, don't, this front part of the brain, while it was working, like, don't do it, don't fight, don't bust it out, calm down, hold it back. It's like trying to anchor her down. But her, if I could say, that reptilian part of the brain, the physiology was pumping like fight, fight, fight. And so her body's going into adrenaline mode, and her brain's like, don't do it, don't do it. And she just goes and has like a massive panic attack, because it's like combusting these forces. And she's just sobbing and crying, and this adrenaline is trying to like come out of her. And at this point, it's like, what's that stress hormone? The opposite of oxytocin. Dang, I'm like forgetting. Cortisol. Yep. She's just, in the principal's office, crying, sitting in the corner, just melting. And I was like, oh my gosh, she didn't fight back. Like, what a big deal. This is like just step one, but like, wow. Like, I was like celebrating that kid so much. And then, oh my goodness, her mom comes into the I don't know, the school or whatever. This is such a long time ago. She comes in the school. The mom is literally holding a car seat with her grandbaby, swinging this car seat around, being like, "Where's my kid? Where's my kid?" Like yelling, and like the whole school in the office can hear. And she's telling her kid, "You should have effing bashed that B word's face. Like, da 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 da. Come here, I'm gonna do it." Like holding the car seat with the baby. And every normal person who was mature and had a brain was like, oh, this lady is literally raising kids to be like this. She's the one that's like supporting and pushing them to be like that. And honestly, I was just nervous for that kid going home, because I knew that kid would be going home to mom who yelled at her for being a disappointment and failure, for not bashing that girl's face, instead of being like, wow, good job for not bashing her face. And so, like, this is a pretty extreme example, but you can substitute it with almost anything. Like, what's something you try to do different, where you try to be different? You say you want to make money. You say you want to get out of poverty. And they say, You think you're better than us? Oh, you think we're poor and you're some Mr. Rich person? Oh, you think your money's going to take you to heaven? Oh, the Bible says, money is the root of all evil, which is that's not even what the Bible says, by the way. I mean, people are going to deploy a lot of different things, whether they flat out say it, which they might or they can, or you sense it, or it's just your own at this point, these internalized voices where you've grown up in so much of that, they don't even have to say that for it to like speak to you from your mind. So again, it's not easy to break down these strongholds, but it's possible. The Bible even says anything is possible with God. It's possible. You just have to be around people who really can teach you. And so when you start to break these, it's not, remember, you're not just breaking your own behavior. By the time something is a stronghold, it's not because something was resurrected in you. Think about it as a tree. First when a tree is growing, like the first year, it's like you can pluck it out and rip it out. It's when it's been there for years and generations, right? We think of those sequoia trees that are gigantic, like hundreds of feet tall. They've been alive for hundreds of years. And so that's what happens, if I could say, with generational curses, generational learned behaviors, generational patterns, same thing. One person does something, programs another person, and the next, this child programs this child. And I don't care if this person says, I'm not going to act like this, like my mom. Guess what? They almost always do, unless they actively start to cut the root of what's going on. Right. I've worked with so many kids that were like, I'm never going to, leave my kids the way, or not be in my kids' lives the way my parents neglected me. And I'm like, well, what are you doing that's like healthy and present in your own life right now? Nothing, nothing healthy, nothing good. Oh, okay. And so what do you think is going to happen when you get your girlfriend randomly pregnant? You're magically going to step up as a parent. You're already like halfway hooked on drugs. Like how, like, without trying to sound like I'm cursing them, but it's like you're already literally repeating the behaviors of that lineage. So what are you doing that's different? That makes me believe you are different. You don't magically wake up different, trust me. It just reminds me of like the same parents that are like really, I'm not going to say shy and timid. I'm just going to say fearful. I'm just going to say how it is. Okay. The same parents that are like scared of everything. They're like, no, I'm going to push my kid out to do things and play sports and be successful. That's not how it works. Okay. You can't like live through your kid, first of all. And second of all, you can't push your kid to do things that you're like cowarding and hiding and go, 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 just go. Like they're going to watch you and you're telling this 3-year-old, why is my mom retreating in fear? No, I'm going to retreat in fear. I see it all the time. So again, I'm just saying like this stuff, like if you don't break it off, you will pass it and train your kid to react like that. Whether you don't communicate well, you don't know how to express your emotions, you're stuck in fight, flight, freeze, you get triggered, you cope by, I don't know, escaping eating or going to 50 church services in one day. Like you are programming and showing your kids what to do, and they might not repeat it exactly like you, but they'll find their own version of how they do it. So we got to take some responsibility there and stop hoping and pretending our kids are going to break those cycles, or employees, or, it's like when people build businesses, like, I'm sorry, but listen, like the type of life that you have now with the type of people, it's going to almost 100% reflect. And I'm going to see the same in your business life, healthy or unhealthy. So I'm going to start to wrap up with this last topic: principality or personality. This is how I see it. Sometimes people are like, this is just my personality. It's who I am. I'm more, shy or timid, or I like to hear what people like to say before I go out. And sometimes that's kind of an illusion. And it's more like, no, the principality that's over you is fear, need for approval and validation from other people, people pleasing, really doubting yourself. So ask yourself, like, is this just like my personality, like people like to say sometimes? Or is it like, no, this is a principality that's actually plagued my generations? And when you start to recognize, no, I think that's a giant that needs to be slayed, then you can start work on that and kill that and break down that stronghold, and then act different in faith if you believe that's slayed, it's eradicated. So yeah, I'm gonna challenge all of you. What strongholds do you have? I'm unlovable. I'm not successful. People are always going to kind of betray me. I just get cheated a lot in my life experiences. I always get left behind. I never find good people. I don't think I'm really going to be that successful. I'm afraid to shine too bright. What are people going to say? My family is going to think I'm better than them. They're going to think I'm greedy and selfish. Um, yeah, the list goes on. There's so many ways we can break this down. And so, what's the antidote? What's the opposite way of doing this? If you are living out of love, the Bible says perfect love casts out all fear. When you so know who you are and what you want, you will get there, and every giant that comes your way, you ain't gonna be scared, okay? You're gonna be like David, who already has a rock, bullseye, done. Next, moves on. It's not a matter of like, oh no, I don't know if I could do this. Yes, you can. The Bible says you already have all authority to knock down all these principles and principalities and just or princes of the air. Like you already have the authority. You just have to be aware it exists. You just got to find out what yours is. If you watched my podcast that I released this last week, Sunday, the 17th podcast, Name That Curse, it's exactly what I'm talking about. It's like, name that stronghold, name that curse. What is it? What's going on? Oh, you're drawn to emotionally unavailable people. Oh, you attract narcissistic type of people because you're such an empath that you don't actually have much self-worth and a backbone and boundaries. Like, let's start to really like make something that looks so abstract and really quantify it, really make it like identifiable so we know what we're working with. And when you start to recognize, I am like God, the God of love made me, I am love. When you start to honor the path that God has for you and love yourself and just move forward. And I know it feels scary. Don't get to like, don't mix up fears holding back with like, oh my gosh, I'm doing things new and I might have to change some friends and my lifestyle might change and how I do life with the people I do life with, like that. Yeah, that might change. That probably will change. It usually does when you're elevating. But when you believe and you're committed, like you believe God is taking you to higher levels, new pastures, extending the territory of your tent, your mind, your life, you will be fine. If you will be better than fine. In fact, I was thinking today and I was almost getting a little emotional in a good way. I was just like, man, this last year of my life, I've had more of my dreams come true than anything, than all my years. I've experienced so much abundance and bliss and love in a way that I've only dreamed of. And this is why I'm so committed to sharing these things with people. It's possible. And what I had to hire some people actually to help me. And not to say all the previous years in my life I wasn't growing and working and evolving. I believe God was helping me with what I was ready. But this last year, when I got myself a coach, by the way, I worked with this phenomenal, amazing lady. I worked with her. I had 2 sessions a week for 3 months. That's a lot. It was intense. I was so ready though, and boy, out of, like, complete love and wisdom, did she just come into my life and saturate me with just, like, solutions and different ways of being and doing, and she taught me so much. Till this day, I'm still reaping the benefits of that experience. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, "This is like heaven on earth." I'm finally experiencing all these things I've wanted to experience for such a long time. I didn't know how to manifest it or how to live it out. I was tired of just dreaming about it, being stuck in this imaginational world. And she helped me break off some strongholds by helping me identify what they were, first of all. And then she really challenged and pushed me out to add different as if these strongholds are broken down. And boy, did I step out of my comfort zone. But I said, fear and pride will not hold me back from experiencing the joys and dreams of my heart. And now I am. And when you get to experience, taste that level of freedom and joy and fulfillment and excitement, there's no going back. In fact, I'm like pushing through even faster, even stronger now. And so I encourage all of you, my ladies, even my gentlemen listening, God bless you. May you have the faith to believe everything that you want is already in you. You just have to go for it and pursue it. Identify whatever stronghold is holding you back, and there's probably multiple. Start breaking it off. If you need help, of course, you can find more info about me on my Instagram page, Yelena Talks, or my website, yelenatalks.com, where you can read about my services, my 8-week coaching program, and you can sign up for a free consultation through my website to see if I can help you. So anyways, hopefully this was helpful. This is actually kind of my strong suit, my forte with helping people identify strongholds, because I've done it for such a long time with all my clients. But let's hopefully I'll see you for my next episode tomorrow. I believe it's going to be, I will try. And the episode will be called, I think it's called niceness or trauma response. And I have some more to talk about that. So if you like this, let me know your thoughts. What strongholds have you been defeating? Leave me comments, subscribe. I just love your guys' interactions. God bless you all. Have a beautiful day.